At the upscale bistro in the heart of Chicago's Gold Coast, a sharply dressed black man walked in, simply wanting a flat white. But he was overlooked, while white patrons who arrived after him were served promptly. When he spoke up, the staff and manager responded with icy indifference, treating him like an inconvenience. What they didn't know was that he was the CEO of a digital media empire, and the silence they imposed on him that day would be their undoing. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Saturday morning, the crisp autumn sun bathed the sidewalks of Chicago's Magnificent Mile, where sleek storefronts gleamed like badges of prestige. Tucked between a high-end chocolatier and a designer shoe boutique stood Bistro Eclat, a haven known for its walnut-paneled walls, $8 cortados, and an unwritten rule about its clientele. Inside, soft R&B played through discreet speakers. Freshly baked croissants scented the air, and every detail was meticulously curated, from the barista's crisp linen apron to the hand-painted ceramic cups. Patrons murmured in hushed tones, their voices tinged with wealth and refinement. The heavy oak door swung open with a gentle chime. A few heads turned briefly, then some gazes lingered. A black man stepped inside, late 30s, tall, clean-shaven, dressed in a charcoal bespoke suit, tie knotted precisely, loafers gleaming. His name was Marcus Tate. He moved with quiet confidence, shoulders square, demeanor unshaken. Yet, in this space, his presence sent a subtle ripple through the room. He approached the counter with a polite nod and a warm smile. "One flat white, please, to stay." His voice was calm, deliberate. The barista, a young white man with a man bun and a practiced grin, nodded once, punched the order into the system, and said curtly, "Got it. We'll call you when it's ready." Marcus stepped aside and settled at a small table by the window. He pulled out a sleek tablet, glancing at the time. He was early. His meeting wasn't for another 25 minutes. Time passed. A white couple in their 20s strolled in, chatting animatedly. They ordered oat milk lattes and took a seat 3 tables away. Their drinks arrived almost instantly. Then came an older white woman with a designer scarf. Macchiato, no wait. A group of tech bros followed, ordering cold brews. 7 minutes max. Marcus glanced at the counter. Nothing. No cup, no name. He waited. 10 minutes, 15. The hum of conversation filled the space, but every so often, eyes darted his way. Some discreet, some less so. A man in a polo shifted uncomfortably, as if Marcus's presence disrupted the bistro's unspoken harmony. A woman whispered to her companion, her lips curling into a faint smirk. Finally, Marcus stood and approached the counter, his tone measured. "Excuse me, I ordered a flat white a while ago." The barista barely looked up. "Still working on it." Marcus glanced behind him. The espresso machine was silent, the counter spotless. The barista wasn't busy. "Just checking," Marcus said, returning to his seat. As he passed a table of 3, white, impeccably dressed, the woman clutched her handbag tighter. Her husband scrolled his phone, avoiding eye contact. Their son, maybe 7, stared at Marcus, curious, not cruel. Kids always saw what adults pretended not to notice. Back at his table, Marcus sat, composed on the surface. But something stirred. This wasn't new, but today it hit differently. The tension was palpable, unspoken, simmering beneath the bistro's polished veneer and forced smiles. He wasn't loud. He wasn't disruptive. He was simply there. And somehow, that was too much. The flat white never arrived. Marcus watched the sunlight dance across the hardwood floor, the morning light climbing higher outside. The R&B track looped again. His smartwatch hummed softly, marking the seconds of silence and mounting unease. A new wave of customers flowed in. their cologne and cashmere blending with the aroma of roasted coffee. One by one, they ordered. One by one, they were served. He told himself it was a mix-up, a fluke. Maybe the barista was distracted. Maybe the orders were backed up. But then the woman with the yoga mat who arrived 10 minutes ago was sipping her chai latte. The guy in the Cubs cap was nursing an Americano, engrossed in his laptop. The door kept chiming. Orders kept flowing, except his. He felt it first as a knot in his chest, that familiar sting he'd buried years ago. He thought he'd outrun it, overcome it with success, poise, and power. But here it was again, suspicion cloaked as oversight. Or was it the reverse? He wasn't ready to name it yet. Naming it would make it real. Another 10 minutes passed. He stood again, calmly, and approached the counter. The same barista was polishing a spoon that didn't need polishing. He saw Marcus coming and tensed slightly. "Hi," Marcus said, firm but polite. "I ordered a flat white almost 30 minutes ago. Just checking if there's an issue." The barista flashed a tight smile that didn't reach his eyes. "We're on it. It'll be out soon." Marcus tilted his head. "I noticed others who ordered after me already have their drinks. Just curious." The barista shrugged. Their orders were easier. It's not a big deal. Marcus glanced at the idle espresso machine. Clean, quiet, unused. The manager, a wiry man in a navy blazer, stepped out from the back. He carried the air of someone who disliked complaints. "Problem here?" he asked, his tone already sharp. Marcus turned to him, steady. "I ordered a flat white nearly half an hour ago. Seems I've been overlooked." The manager's eyebrows shot up theatrically. "We're swamped. Things take time. Not for the last 8 customers, though. I'm sure it's just a mix-up," he said, his voice clipped. "You'll get your drink." Marcus nodded, returning to his seat, not because he bought the excuse, but because he needed a moment to think. His chest tightened, not with shame, but with the dawning clarity that this wasn't an accident. It was a signal. He scanned the room again, catching details he'd tried to ignore. The man by the fireplace who stared too long, his eyes narrowing as if Marcus were an intrusion. The woman a few tables over, whispering to her friend, while stealing glances. The subtle ways their bodies angled away from him, as if his presence violated some sacred code. He felt it creeping up his spine, the unspoken message that he didn't belong. Not because of his words, his suit, or his demeanor, but because his skin carried a story that unsettled them, one they didn't want to confront over their artisanal coffee. Marcus recalled choosing Bistro Eclat deliberately. He liked its vibe, its understated elegance. He'd been here once before for a quick client coffee. No issues. But today, without a white colleague to anchor his presence, he was other, suspicious, invisible until inconvenient. He looked at his hands, steady, dark. He'd built a life on making people see past them, but now they were all anyone saw. His phone vibrated, a text from his meeting partner, stuck in traffic, there in 20. Marcus set the phone down, face down. The anger didn't burn hot. It was cold, precise, clear. He was done shrinking to fit their comfort. He wasn't going to let them pretend this was normal. He stood a third time, not for the counter, but for the center of the bistro, between the polished tables and curated charm. He didn't raise his voice, but the room felt it. "Excuse me," he said, addressing everyone and no one. The murmur of chatter faltered. "I've been here for nearly 40 minutes, he said, his voice even, his gaze steady. "I ordered 1 flat white. 1. Everyone who came in after me has been served." The barista froze, spoon in hand. The manager reappeared, lips pursed. An older couple by the window peered over their menus. Marcus continued, unshaken. "So, I have to ask, how white do I need to be to get a coffee here like everyone else?" Silence, heavy, raw. The manager stepped forward. "Sir, please keep your voice down." Marcus held his gaze. "This is as quiet. Died from the web. Quiet as I can speak and still be heard." A few patrons shifted uncomfortably. The man with the Cubs cap looked up. The woman with the latte set her cup down. The tension crackled. No one spoke up. No one said a word in his defense. They just stared. Marcus didn't shout. He didn't curse. He didn't break a rule. He just stood there. And that was enough to feel threatening. Enough to make the staff nervous. Enough to make the room uneasy. Enough to be seen as a problem. The barista turned away, fussing with a stack of lids. The manager crossed his arms. "We reserve the right to refuse service if anyone makes our staff or patrons uncomfortable," he said, his voice low and sharp. Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Uncomfortable, huh?" He glanced around. Not one person met his eyes. Not one stood up. Not one said, "This is wrong." And in that moment, the unease inside him solidified into something else. Not anger, but purpose. They didn't want him here. Fine. But they'd never forget he was. The bistro was frozen, like the last note of an R&B song no one knew how to follow. Marcus's question hung in the air, too sharp to dismiss, too heavy to ignore. How white do I need to be? The words clung to the walnut walls and glass cases like frost. The manager stood still. So did Marcus. Their eyes locked, not with fury, but with a challenge. Will you pretend this didn't happen? The bistro clung to its routine. A fork tapped a plate. The espresso machine hissed for someone else. The scent of vanilla and hazelnut, once warm, now felt sterile, like the manager's smile, like the barista's courtesy. Marcus didn't need to say more. The silence demanded it. The barista, hands shaking slightly, rearranged already perfect sugar packets. When she looked up and saw Marcus still standing, her frustration bubbled up. "Sir!" she snapped, her voice betraying nerves. "You're disturbing our customers." Marcus tilted his head. Disturbing? His tone was low, heavy. "You mean by expecting to be treated like a paying customer? Or was I disturbing the second I walked in?" Her face reddened. "That's not what I meant." "Then what did you mean?" The manager stepped in, his stance defensive, almost aggressive, as if Marcus's existence challenged the bistro's order. "We have standards," he said. "We serve everyone who respects them." Marcus's laugh was short, bitter. "Standards? You think I don't know what that means? You think I can't hear what you're really saying?" A woman with a designer purse stood, muttering about an appointment. Others followed, eager to flee the tension, not the injustice. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't make a scene. That wasn't his goal. He stood, hands relaxed, voice steady. "Let's call this what it is," he said. "You didn't forget my order. You didn't lose it. You ignored it. Because people like me walk into places like this, and you decide we don't belong. You think we're trouble. You expect us to stay quiet, be grateful, and leave without a fuss. But today, I'm not doing that." The manager's arms tightened. "Sir, I'm asking you to leave." "And if I don't?" A pause. The manager glanced at the back, maybe thinking of security, maybe weighing the optics of ejecting a well-dressed black man who hadn't raised his voice, maybe noticing the phones now pointed his way. He swallowed. "I'd rather not escalate." "Too late," Marcus said. "You escalated this the moment you decided my presence was the problem, not my order." An older black man, unnoticed until now, stood slowly from a corner table. His eyes met Marcus's, carrying a silent nod of recognition. He didn't speak, but his steady gaze said, "I get it." Then he walked out, head high. Marcus exhaled. His pulse was steady, trained to stay calm. But the weight of countless moments like this pressed against his ribs. He thought of the boardrooms where he was mistaken for an intern, the client dinners where waiters handed the check to someone else, the Uber that drove past him on Michigan Avenue. He looked at the counter. No flat white, no apology, just avoidance. With deliberate calm, Marcus pulled out his wallet, placed a $20 bill on the table he never used, and headed for the door. A young woman in the corner subtly raised her phone, recording. Marcus didn't stop her. Let them capture it. Let the world see how subtle injustice can be, dressed in pressed shirts and fake smiles. As he reached the door, the barista called out, her voice sharp with frustration. "Wait, you people always make it about race. Maybe it was just a mistake." Marcus turned, hand on the handle. "Then you should have fixed it," he said. "You should have cared. But you didn't. That's the part you won't admit." Her expression tightened, but she stayed silent. Marcus stepped outside. The Chicago wind hit hard, sharp and cold, as if the city itself felt the weight of what had happened. The oak door closed softly behind him, cutting him off from Bistro Eclat's polished world. He paused on the sidewalk, not ready to move. His meeting partner hadn't arrived. His phone buzzed, but he ignored it. Something bigger had stirred inside him, more urgent than any deal. He caught his reflection in a storefront window, suit, tie, dignity intact. But his eyes were different now. No shock, no doubt. Just purpose. Today wasn't just another slight. It was a spark, and he wasn't letting it fade. The sun climbed higher, casting long shadows on the pavement. Marcus stood still, his silhouette sharp against the bustling street. Passers-by moved around him, some indifferent, some curious, some already watching the viral clip that had hit the internet within the hour. A 30-second video, his voice clear. "How white do I need to be to get a coffee like everyone else?" It was enough. The internet didn't need more. He didn't go home. He didn't go to his meeting. He walked, block after block, through the city's pulse, lost in a silence louder than the traffic. The world felt too small to hold what had happened, too vast to care. But something in him had shifted, not broken, not bent, but realigned. That evening, as the skyline glowed under a pink dusk, Marcus stood in his office, a corner suite with windows overlooking Lake Michigan. The golden light spilled across polished concrete floors and minimalist furniture. Horizon Pulse Media. The name on the frosted glass door was his creation, his legacy. He rarely spoke of the grind it took to build it, to prove a black man could be more than a spokesperson, more than a sidekick, more than a pitch's afterthought. He sat on the edge of a glass conference table, scrolling through his phone. Messages poured in. Reporters, colleagues, strangers. The video was everywhere. X, TikTok, Instagram. News outlets were calling. "Can we quote you? Can we use your name? Are you the man in the video?" He'd stayed quiet most of the day. Then he posted a photo of himself outside the bistro, not angry, not defeated, just there. Caption: "They didn't serve me, but I've built a platform that can't be ignored." The post went viral in minutes. In his office, Marcus leaned forward, elbows on his knees, phone in hand. His assistant, Lena, walked in, her energy quiet but electric. "Ready?" she asked. He looked up, eyes heavy but focused. "Let's do it." The studio downstairs was set. Cameras, lights, a simple gray backdrop. No press conference, no theatrics, just Marcus, a mic, a lens, and the truth. He sat under the lights. No script. His voice was steady. "I wasn't going to say anything. I thought I'd walk away, let the video speak, let people debate if it was racism or bad service. But silence isn't neutral. It's a choice. I'm done choosing it." He paused, eyes unblinking. "I built this company to change how stories are told. I was tired of seeing people like me framed as threats, failures, or props. I wanted new narratives." Today, at a bistro on the Magnificent Mile, I was reminded, in the most polite way, that some places will never see me as enough. The camera rolled, silent. No music, no edits, just raw truth. Marcus went on, voice firm. I'm not walking away this time. No waiting for a half-hearted apology or a policy review. I'm starting something. The screen cut to black. A logo appeared. Bold white text on a dark background. The Pulse. The next shot showed Marcus at a whiteboard, writing one word in sharp red marker. Truth. He spoke off camera. The Pulse is a series, a platform, a reckoning. It's where we ask the questions people dodge. Where stories like mine, like yours, don't get buried under PR and pleasantries. By morning, the announcement was everywhere. By noon, headlines screamed, CEO calls out, racism with bold new platform. Horizon Pulse, founder strikes back. Bistro Eclat slammed after viral video. The bistro posted a vague apology on social media, citing miscommunication. It didn't land. Not this time. Within 48 hours, their Yelp rating tanked. Articles dissected their staff training. Their comment sections burned with hashtags, screenshots, and vows to boycott. Marcus didn't call for it. He didn't have to. People saw the truth and remembered it. He stayed quiet that first week, not out of fear, but strategy, letting the story breathe. As the buzz settled, he released the Pulse's first trailer. It wasn't slick or overdone. It opened with a question scrawled on a window in black marker. When does discomfort become injustice? Clips followed. Interviews, protests, small-town stories, moments only those who lived them knew. Faces, voices, lives. Marcus's voice closed it. They didn't serve me coffee, but they served something bigger. And just like that, the narrative shifted. From victim to creator. From silence to spotlight. From exclusion to empowerment. Every frame, every word, every moment was shaped by the man they tried to erase, the man they dismissed, the man whose name they never asked. The studio was dark now, the city's hum soft outside, the wall clock ticking faintly. Marcus stood by the window, his reflection faint against the Chicago skyline. Below, life moved on, taxis honking, people hurrying home with shopping bags and headphones, carrying their own stories. But Marcus wasn't thinking about the bistro, the backlash, or the Pulse's viral rise. He was thinking about how close he came to staying silent. What if he'd swallowed it, walked out, let the sting fade like always? What would the world have missed? What would he have lost? A knock at the door broke his thoughts. Lena stepped in, holding a plain envelope. This came, she said softly. Handwritten. No return address. Marcus took it, curious, and opened it. Inside, a piece of notebook paper with careful blue ink. Dear Mr. Tate, I'm Caleb, 10. My dad showed me your video. I've never seen someone like you speak like that. I'm scared when people look at me funny. But you weren't scared. You were strong. I want to be like you when I grow up. Someone people hear. Thank you for speaking. From Caleb. Marcus stared at the letter. Still. No smile, no tears, just the weight of it sinking in. A kid saw him and felt a shift. Somewhere, a voice was rising because his had. That night, Marcus sat in his loft, the air filled with the scent of cedar from a candle on the counter. He sipped water, scrolling through news on his tablet. The story wasn't about coffee anymore. It wasn't about the bistro or the barista. It was bigger. A conversation no one could bury. A CNN panel debated bias in service industries, their words polished, but often off target. Still, the message had broken through. The Pulse was picked up by 3 streaming platforms. Community groups reached out. Colleges booked him to speak. Activists pitched collaborations. But most of all, people were talking about things they'd long kept quiet. In airports, train stations, and lobbies, strangers approached Marcus with stories, not selfies. A nurse mistaken for a custodian. A dad told his kid couldn't play in a gated community. A teen who hid in oversized clothes to feel unseen. Each story wove into his. He told them all, "You're not invisible. You're not crazy. You're not alone." He meant it every time. Months later, Bistro Eclat shut down. Some blamed the reviews, others poor management. For Marcus, it was over. What mattered was what grew in its place. One crisp spring morning, he stood before a packed lecture hall at a high school in Detroit. The crowd, students, teachers, local reporters, was diverse, eager, curious. He wasn't there as a CEO or a media star, but as a man who knew what it felt like to be judged for what he couldn't change. He shared the story, not the viral cut, not the headlines, but the quiet parts, the waiting, the glances, the moment you know you're being erased on purpose. Then he shared what followed. "I didn't speak up for fame," he said. "I spoke up because silence fuels the machine. Sometimes, the boldest move is refusing to vanish." The room was still. Then one pair of hands clapped, then more. Not loud, not showy, but real, like truth resonating. Backstage, a 15-year-old girl in a denim jacket approached, her voice soft but sure. "My brother saw your show. He cried. Said he didn't think anyone could tell the truth like that and come out on top." Marcus nodded. Truth always wins, even if the world's slow to catch up. That night, in his apartment, the city's lights pulsing like a heartbeat, Marcus thought back to that morning at the bistro. The gleaming floor, the barista's eyes, the sense of being a problem they wished would disappear. He left, but not silently. Every episode, every speech, every classroom he entered, proved a voice with purpose could shift the ground. The world wouldn't change overnight, but it was moving. It had to. He pulled Caleb's letter from his coat pocket and read it again. Somewhere, a kid was learning not to shrink. Somewhere, silence was losing. Somewhere, justice was stirring. Not with a shout, but with a question loud enough for the world to hear. How white do I have to be? The answer, clear and final, was, you don't. Join us to share powerful stories. Hit like and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell for daily doses of truth and heart.